Please be seated. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the situation briefing on the effects of the earthquake in Abra. To officially welcome us, may we call on the Abra Governor, Dominic B. Valera. Again, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the situation briefing on the effects of the earthquake in Abra. To officially welcome us, may we call on the Abra Governor, Dominic B. Valera. Sir. May we call our beloved Governor for his welcome remark, Honorable Dominic B. Valera.
Good morning, Apo. His Excellency and the Bride of the Lucano, President Bong Marcos, members of the Cabinet, esteemed generals of the military forces and uniformed personnel, regional provincial directors, and various national agencies. Speaker Romualdez, the ILG Secretary, Abalo, sir. Apo Chavez Simpson, Secretary Erwin Tolpo, DSLD, Congresswoman Ching Bernos, Vice Governor Joy Valera Bernos, municipal mayors headed by LNP President J.B. Bernos, sir. Patpagek nga kaprobinsiyaan na imbagnal daw tayo amin. If we were gathered here on regular day, sana masaya tayong lahat ngayon. But came the 7.3 intensity earthquake yesterday. And so here we are. But there is still so much to be grateful for, and that is our being here to provide relief assistance and comfort to our beloved Abraños. Thank you, Sir Mr. President. Your presence here, as well as the heads of the agencies who are with you, give us comfort. Malaking bagay po ito sa amin. Salamat ng marami sa mga tulong na pumapasok na at papasok pa para sa ating mga kababayan Abraño. Of course, we continue to receive update our people on the ground. There is so much change, damage, so many injured, many pero pangako namin ang Abra ay babangon. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, sir, for the warm welcome. Next, to give an update on the effects of the earthquake is ASEC Bernardo Rafaelito R. Alejandro IV of NDRRMC.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning. To the members of the Cabinet and to the Speaker, Speaker Romualdez, Senator Annie Marcos, the Governor, and to the other local officials and members of the RDMC, allow me to present the updates on the magnitude 7 earthquake in northern Luzon. Scope of my presentation is as follows: the situation overview, monitored effects, and actions taken. Let me begin with the situation overview. Shown is the latest earthquake information from PBOX detailing the occurrence of earthquake at around 8:43 yesterday at Tayong, Abra with a magnitude of 7.0. The highest intensity recorded is intensity 7. Also, based on records from PBOX, as of 2 a.m. this morning, there were already 798 aftershocks recorded in Abra. 161 were plotted, while 22 were felt. The magnitudes range from 1.5 to 5.4. Change in the number of aftershocks recorded was due to the validation made by PBOX. In terms of effects, for the affected population, a total of 4,969 families or 20,091 persons are affected in 110 barangays in Regions 1 and CAR. In terms of casualties, there are 5 dead and 131 injured. In terms of damage to infrastructure, there are damage reported in Ilocos Sur. Also, 61 schools were reported as damaged as well as 3 bridges. As of reporting time, the cost of damage to infrastructure is 33.8 billion in Ilocos region alone. To date, the concerned agencies and regional offices are still gathering reports on the damage to agriculture and other assets. For houses, a total of 349 houses were damaged in CAR and Region 1. For roads and bridges, there are 22 roads closed to traffic in Cordillera region and 1 road in Cagayan Valley region. Several areas in CAR also experienced power interruption, while the whole province of Ilocos Sur experienced power interruptions but was immediately restored at 2 p.m. yesterday. In the Cordillera, most of the earthquake effects were reported in Abra and Benguet as shown. Also shown are the effects in Kalinga, Ifugao, and Mountain Province. Here are some photos capturing the extent of damage in the region. Now, for the actions taken, the NDRIMC conducted its emergency meeting with the affected regions via BTC since yesterday. The virtual EOC was activated and red alert was raised at the NDRIM OC. The NDRIMC directive was signed by the chairperson, was issued for Luzon regions on the reiteration of response actions. PBOX also conducted continuous assessment and organized its quick response teams. A total of 2 emergency alerts and warning messages were issued. This is in relation to the no tsunami alert. Specifically, the NDRIMC has directed its response cluster to monitor the situation, provide assistance as needed, and account all actions taken. Shown are the summary of actions taken by the response cluster. For search, rescue, and retrieval cluster, this is led by the Armed Forces of the Philippines. As shown, we have standby assets that were deployed and also on standby for use. For camp coordination and camp management, protection and food and non-food items cluster, which is led by the DSWD, they have a standby relief amounting to 1.3 billion ready for augmentation. For emergency telecoms cluster, led by DICT, as shown, they're doing ongoing restoration together with the commercial telcos. For the shelter cluster, this is led by the DSHUD. They have prepared shelter assistance with the help of partner agencies. For the health cluster, this is led by DOH. They have provided medicines and other medical supplies to the affected LGUs. For the education clusters, this is led by the DepEd. They reported around 61 damaged schools and 116 damaged classrooms, and assessment is still ongoing. For the logistics cluster, this is led by the OCD. We have available stockpiles ready for augmentation when needed. For the law and order cluster, this is led by the PNP. They have deployed security forces around the different evacuation centers and have around 1,290 personnel on standby. For the management of the dead and missing, this is led by the DILG. They are doing the verification of the casualties of this event. Then we have the Philippine International Humanitarian Assistance Cluster, which is led by the DFA. They are monitoring offers of assistance. So far, we have received offer of assistance from Japan, specifically for search, rescue, and retrieval and other emergency supplies. The AFP also conducted its immediate aerial reconnaissance for rapid damage assessment over Abra, Vigan, and other shoreline of La Union area. Based on the assessment, there were minor damage spotted at Vigan Cathedral and Bell Tower, as well as road damage due to landslide. No other significant observations or assessments were made. Here is the detailed report from the AFP for aircraft S-70 as shown. They flew over Abra yesterday. Also, here is the detailed report from the AFP for aircraft S-76A, which flew over Vigan and La Union also yesterday. As for the regions and the local government units, they have conducted rescue and retrieval operations in affected areas. The regions and the local government units also provided assistance to affected families. They initiated the conduct of clearing operations, and presently they are doing the assessment and data validation. With this, we'd like to inform the President that the response is managed at the local and regional levels with the support from outside regions, local government units, and other national government agencies. The NDRIMC is continuously monitoring and on standby for specific needs that may arise. That ends my briefing, Mr. President.
Thank you, ASEC Alejandro. At this point, may we hear the President's guidance.
Well, let's start. Good morning, everyone. I just like to start by clarifying some of the parts of the report. Number one, power has been restored everywhere. Wala nang area na nawalan ng power na hindi pa bumalik ang power o meron pa rin. Yung mga isolated na bayan dito sa
Yes, sir.
the 7 towns in the mountains.
Yes, sir. Not all towns have power already, sir. Hindi pa po lahat.
When do we anticipate na bumalik na? Yan. Tama-tama ang ating... Yes, I wanted that dice out and that's why I wanted to ask.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Good morning.
My name is Loreto Ciares Jr. I'm the General Manager of Abreco. Please allow our technical assist to give you a brief report regarding
Please.
po sa extent ng damages ng Abreco.
Magandang umaga po, Mr. President. As of this early morning, sir, is all 26 towns ng Abra may power na po. Although there are some laterals po na wala. Katulad po, halimbawa po, yung isang transformer nasira, definitely po, wala po. Pero yung backbone line po, buong Abra meron na po, sir.
So you have yung capability ninyo, yung capacity ninyo bago ng lindol, nasa 95% kayo. Naibalik na ninyo.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's about in the
Yes,
so
sir.
significant. The next area I wanted to ask about dahil hindi masyadong maliwanag was the communication. Hindi pa ba ang pagkaintindi ko from the DICT is that the globe is fully functioning. Who can we say? Is globe fully functioning and SMART is also almost fully functioning? All right. Okay na for the province of Abra. Talagang inaantay lang niya sa power. Okay, of course. So, Sec Erwin, what are the outstanding issues yet para sa assistance doon sa ating mga naging biktima who are... that's another question I wanted to ask. Usually in the disaster reports, there is one area where you give the number of totally destroyed houses and partially destroyed. Do we have that number, those numbers? Yes, please, para alam natin what we're dealing with.
At this, Mr. President, at this point, we're continuing the assessment, and right now, as per 6 o'clock a.m., we have 28 totally damaged houses and 2,362 partially. Pero tataas pa to, sir, as the report sa kasi i-reach out pa natin yung mga outlying barrios, Mr. President.
You said Solidum, are we allowing them already? Are we allowing them already to go back into their homes, at least the engineers, to inspect if they are safe? Is it already safe for people to, at least hindi pa muna yung resident, kundi yung mga mag-inspeksyon, to declare safe?
Yes po. Kung declared talagang structurally safe po yung mga building, pwede na. But people should be ready how to respond properly during aftershock. Kasi malakas pa po ang posibleng aftershock, and just to brief po ang mga local government units, we expect aftershocks to continue for several weeks, pero the first 3 days po ang marami, and hopefully, mababa na siya.
For example, the hospital, when ayaw pa nilang pumasok ngayon because it's still it might still be unsafe and baka magka-aftershock. When is it safe for our people to go in to make the inspection and then start the repairs?
Yung inspection po can be done right away.
Can be done. Right?
Yes po.
Who will perform the
Engineer po, Public Works
yung
and
sa
engineers.
Public Works,
Ninyo.
they will do the inspections. All right. The other, I think, Sector Win, I think dun sa human victims, yung mga homeless, how many people have been rendered homeless? Yes, Director. Ano
Yes, sir.
yung statistic for homeless?
Ang bali, actually, ang nakalagay ko dito natin is totally is 28, pero ang partially, so i-assess pa natin yan, is 2,362.
Saan ngayon yung mga resident na yan?
Ito po ay covered po ito, yung mga marami rito po sa Abra, tapos meron din tayo sa Kalinga, sa Benguet.
Hindi, pagka homeless sila, saan sila tinakbo? Saan
Ano
sila
po yan?
dinala? Where did you evacuate them to?
Dalawa po yan, evacuation centers, o meron silang napuntahan ng mga
Hirin,
kamag-anak sa
Yes,
ibang lugar.
Go, Vice Joy.
Mr. President, we opted to accommodate all our evacuees sa open area like yung ganitong structure. All of the LGUs in the province po, we have evacuation centers, but it's not advisable to accommodate inside the evacuation center since meron pa po mga aftershock. Kaya yung mga merong mga basketball courts, we set up through the SWD, we set up modular tents for everyone.
All right. How many now are in those evacuation centers?
Actually, sir, we have 1,000 modular tents coming in, dumating na ito, and another 1,000 coming from Region 2, interoperability. So, parating ho ito mga modular tents, pero meron na ho kaming na-set up dito sa Bangged.
I'm looking for the number so that the SWD knows how to prepare. Ilan ang aalagaan, ilan yung papakainin. That's yung basic. How long will we have to be keeping them in the evacuation center? All of this para alam ng DSWD kung ano yung Yes,
Yes, sir. If I may, sir. Sir, we have a figure here. We have the reports coming in from the affected regions. We have a total of 409,969 families, or 20,000 persons, more or less, that are affected in 110 barangays in Region 1 and the Cordillera Administrative Region. Inside evacuation centers, 31 evacuation centers ang nabilang natin, sir. We have around 2,312 families and in Regions 1 and Cordillera Administrative Region. Then outside evacuation centers, yung mga tao na temporarily staying sa relatives nila or friends na naglagay ng mga tent sa labas ng bahay, we have around 413 families or 1,637 persons, sir. The whole sir, regions, CAR and Region 1 and 2, sir. So these are the numbers, sir.
All right, thank you.
Sir, let me add to that. Yung affected families po, basing as of 6 a.m. kanina, sir, is around 4,969 dito po. Persons, to translate that in individuals, like 20,091. Nasa evacuation centers po natin ng families is 2,312. And persons, yung bawat tao, sir, is 8,314. Outside evacuation center, sir, yung wala po sa mga evac centers sila, pero dyan po sa tabi ng bahay lang sa labas po, yung iba opted to return home. 413 families po. Persons po is 1,657, Mr. President. Damaged houses po, partial is 9. Totally damaged po as 349 so far. But it might still go up, sir, according to the LGU.
All right, mabuti na lang you don't see any of this from the air. All right, so that is going to be at the very least kasi dati as you say, tataas pa yung number niyan eh.
Yes, sir.
Makatanggap na tayo ng report lalo na yung mga malalayo. So I think we are prepared for that kind of number.
We are, sir. Basing on your instruction po kasi during the SONA, sir, morning pa lamang, we have already deployed all these food packs and prepositioning. Hindi lang po food packs, pati po non-food items have been prepositioned already, sir, sa mga provinces. Kagaya po dito sa Abra, sir, nag-preposition na po kami nung morning pa lang po ng SONA ninyo, pinadala na hula dito. Ang anticipation namin, sir, was flood and landslide, hindi po earthquake. Pero we have already distributed, sir.
Yeah, that's what we were worried about in the very beginning na umulan that will make the situation work. So we do what we usually do, work together with the local government so that we can make sure na walang nangangailangan na hindi natin nabigyan ng tulong. That's just the LGUs are always the ones, the municipal mayors, the governors, the vice governor, ay kayong nakakaalam kung what the situation is on the ground. So our communications is back, yung kuryente is back. Wala namang nasira na water supply. Yes, and
Yes, with all due respect, Region 1 is not completely back in terms of power. And even in Batak, there was no power this morning in certain barangays such as Kilimsur and those beside and surrounding MMSU. The same goes for certain coastal towns. They're still in the dark.
as I understand it, even in Ilocos Sur, meron pa rin yata. La Union, meron pa yata.
Yes, that's
may mga
correct.
lugar pang wala eh.
We're having some problems in Kalagayan as well due to all sorts of electrical issues at may mga transformer na bulok na tumutok na rin.
Well, that unfortunately, yung pag-inspection ng linya will take time. But I think we will have to do as much as we can, as quickly as possible. Of course, that's going to be for the key for our relief efforts, lahat ng gagawin natin. We have to be able to communicate and we have to be able to operate. So that's why inuna ko yung dalawang yun, to find out what our capabilities are. All right, so the next, since we've paid attention already to the human aspect of it. Well, there's one more question I had in terms of service. Wala namang nagka-problema na putulan ng water supply. Meron din. Well, that's something that we have to. We're here in Banggit. Anong nangyari?
Dahil siguro sa movement ng soil or whatever, kaya yung mga lines ng water system po nagkakaproblema.
Well, that again is actually even more of a priority than communications and power. That's something that has to be restored immediately. So we have a representative from Public Works here or from
the Office of Civil Defense. Regarding
sorry,
water,
could you-
sir, if I may, sir. The whole province of Abra needs 300,000 bottles of water, drinking water. Yes. So initially, I coordinated with the Office of Civil Defense Central Office. So may parating na po na initial na 500 boxes of distilled water. So, ang kailangan talaga, sir, is 6,250 boxes. 48 for a total of 300,000 bottles. Initial po. So we are doing an initial, naglo-loading na po sa central office ng Office of Civil Defense. It will be coming anytime this day.
But are the systems that were damaged, are they undergoing repair? Because we cannot be providing bottles of water for too long.
Sir, good morning. I'm Director Kadafi Tanggol from DPWH CAR. Sir,
Oh, there you are. Okay.
with regards to the water system, sir, the maintenance and the operation were delegated to the local waterworks now. So they have the responsibility for the maintenance, sir.
Cannot provide assistance to the local government para maging mas mabilis.
Sir, the first instruction of Secretary Bunuan for us is to make all our national roads and bridges passable.
Correct, yes.
So we started dun sa, we have 22 road closures, and then for car, we still have 3 na road closure. So after which, we will assist also the local government units in clearing their local roads. Yun ang instruction ni Secretary Bunuan, which we are doing now. And nagpalabas din sir ng assessment team si Secretary Bunuan, both from the central office and from the regional office, to assess the situation of our infra and other buildings. Kasama na yung sa school buildings, hospitals, and other government facilities. So this assessment, sir, is ongoing na since yesterday, and we will submit the report tomorrow, Friday. Yun ang binigay sa amin na deadline, sir.
All right, but we have to put together a plan to restore the actual water system.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. President, if I may, I'm sending up a solar purifier, and we found in Ilocos Norte that those are very helpful. You don't have the disposal of plastic and all the other issues that surround distilled water. So perhaps the national government should be giving the pure solar purifiers for these disasters. In the meantime, I'm sending one to Abra.
Very well.
Mr. President, sir.
One of the things that we have found useful in all of the disaster, pagka water supply ang nagiging problema, are the water purifying systems that are very simple. You've seen them before, yung nasa balde, and then they have a filter. We should procure more of those because immediately water is always going to be a problem para hindi, things like cholera, diphtheria will come into play. So, tignan natin na mabuti yan. In fact, I know already of a source where we can immediately get them. There is it is actually an aid agency. And yun lang ang trabaho nila. Nagpo-provide sila ng ginamit natin.
Mr. President.
Yes,
I think
President.
that's the NGO called Spring that's very present in the land.
That yung maliliit, maganda niyan is it's sufficient for one to supply 100 people per day. So if the barangay has 4, 5, 6 of them, at least may tubig na.
We also have an indigenous technology using the burnay to filter by layer the impure water into potable.
Well, we have to try everything. Basta again, pakuluan lang ng konti. Just to be sure that everything is safe. Yes,
Mr. President, yung sinabi ni Secretary Amy, tama po yun. In fact, MMDA is now here with 10 water purifiers. Ginamit po namin ito nung huling Odette sa Bohol at sa Samar. So naka-standby na po sila. Siguro solar powered din po sila. Lalagay lang ito sa isang poso o kung saan at it could really pwede mag-supply sa isang barangay. Andyan na po, the 10 teams.
ang isang barangay? How
Yeah,
big, how many?
Ito po ay 10 makina po ang dala po
nakasakay
nila.
sa truck?
Ano po ito, portable po ito, sir. Very portable. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Na-test na po na, gamit na po namin ito. Magdadala. They're now here at the Capitol, the MMDA search.
Kailangan natin lahat yan. But I'm particularly interested dun sa that simple purification system. Because we don't know how long it's going to take. So, mabuti meron silang water supply. Iwanan na namin sa inyo yan. Kasi ito, when more or less there is a supply. But we cannot depend only on water bottles. After a while, and then makikita ninyo daming plastic bigla sa barangay ninyo. Maglilinis kayo ng gusto. So all right. So yes, those are the critical parts, I think, to support the not beneficiaries, the victims. In the meantime, hanggat sila'y makabalik. All right. So, I would like to see a report on the infrastructure damage in the roads, bridges, then also from the irrigation, kung tinamaan yung mga irrigation system natin, and what the damage is. So maybe the Public Works can give us a report on the.
Good morning, sir.
Yes.
Here we will start with Cordillera, and the next reporting will be by Argitan of Region 1. So, for this particular incident, we were able to deploy 408 equipment and 2,228 manpower. That's for CAR and Region 1. Next slide, please. And then, sir, these are a series of pictures of the landslides that happened in Cordillera. This is under the Benguet province. Next slide, please. This one is in Marcos Highway, sir. And as of this writing, it's already passable, 2-lane passable. Next slide. Yan, sir, yung sa Marcos Highway, it's now passable. Next slide. That's still in Marcos Highway. The same one section lang yun, sir. Next slide. This one, sir, is in Nueva Vizcaya Road. As you can see in the slide, yung portion na may intervention, walang nangyaring slides. But dito sa section na malapit sa cameraman, wala pang intervention na nagawa. So there's a slide. Next, please. This is the same section, sir, in Nueva Vizcaya Road, which is now open, 2-lane. Next slide. Another section in Nueva Vizcaya Road. Again, this section, sir, is open na rin as of now. Next slide. Another section, sir, in Andres Acop Cosalan Road. This one, sir, is open lang siya ng 1 lane. We need more intervention for this one. Next slide. Yan. So, passable na po siya, sir, for 1 lane lang. Next slide. So, this one, sir, again, is in Andres Acop Cosalan Road. It's now passable. Next slide. Next slide, please. This one, sir, is in Governor Badu Dangwan National Road in Kapangan. It's now passable din, sir. Next slide. This one, another section in Governor Badu Dangwan National Road. It's now passable, sir. Next slide. This one, sir, is again in Governor Badu Dangwan National Road. It's now passable. Next slide. Again, sir, in Governor Badu Dangwan National Road at Kibungan. It's now passable. Next slide. Another section of the Governor Badu Dangwan National Road in Ampusungan, Bacon, Benguet. It's now passable, sir. Next slide. This one, sir, is in Baguio Bontoc Road. There are series of slides that happen in that road section. Next slide. The same road section, sir, in Baguio Bontoc Road. Cleared na ito, sir. It's passable. Next slide. Again, in Baguio Bontoc Road, sir. Sir, ganyan kalalaki yung mga nahuhulog na bato dito sa Cordillera. So, you can just imagine the danger that ito yung kinakatatakutan ng mga taga-Cordillera pagka dumadaan sila sa ating kalsada, sir. Next slide. This one is in Alab section, Bontoc Mountain Province. Next slide. This one is in Bunyan section, passable na rin ito, sir. Next slide. Next slide. Again in Baguio Bontoc Road, Lukib section, Mountain Province, sir. Now it's passable. Next slide, please. And this one, sir, the next slide. Next slide. Again in Baguio Bontoc Road, sir. This is in Mount Data Cliff, Bauco. Ito, sir, yung hindi pa passable. Ongoing pa yung clearing at this section. Next slide. Again, katabi lang nito nung isa, sir, pero this part ng doon sa Mount Data Cliff is open na. Next slide. This one is the Mountain Province to Ilocos Road. Next slide. Passable na rin siya, sir. Next slide. This one, sir, again in Mountain Province to Kalagayan via Tabuk Inrail Road and Makotiti section. Passable na rin siya, sir. Next slide. So those are series of pictures, sir, that we were able to collect. And as of this morning, sir, 7 a.m., we still have 3 remaining closed na road section. This is the Ifugao, sa Ifugao, sir, the Kiangan Tinok Bugyas Road, which we expect to be open bukas ng 5 p.m. And one in Kalinga, sir, the Lubwagan Batong Buhay to Abra Road. Again, we expect this to be open tomorrow at 5 p.m. And then the one yung nasa picture, sir, na close pa rin, the Baguio Bontoc Road. Our target is July 30 namin ma-open yun, sir. And sir, with your instruction, in fact, may mga yung kasama pala siya sa assessment team natin na dinispatch ni Secretary Bunuan, kasama yung mga consultants ng foreign consultants. So I'd like to inform our local governments here in Abra, yung Katahira and Sons. They have a team that went here this morning also to help us in the assessment of the extent of the damage.
Paano naman meron kayong report sa mga tulay? The Vice Governor was showing me pictures of damaged bridges.
Yes, sir. Yung mga na-report na damage, sir, mostly on the approach, sir. So, madali na lang yung intervention, sir. Structurally stable naman yung mga bridges natin along our national roads.
Medyo yung pinakita mo sa akin, may malaking crack na ganito, all half a meter wide na crack.
It's located in the Baay Bridge in Abra Kalinga Road, sir.
At saka yung, what was the other bridge, yung umurong sa approach?
Yes, sir.
Hindi na parehong level.
We are waiting for yung result ng assessment ng ating structural engineer, sir.
All right. Well, again, of course, that's very important. You get all those bridges back into service. I think you're doing as well as can be done dito sa pag-clearing ng mga kalsada. Malalaki yung mga bato na nakita natin. All right. So that now when we have to organize also, I guess local government, kasi kayong mga staff, ang mga staff ninyo magagamitin. Paano na kung hindi naman injured yung mga evacuee, paano natin kung as soon as possible maibalik? Kaya tinanong ko na kung kailan tayo pwedeng pumasok sa mga bahay para maibalik sila sa bahay nila. And for those that have damage, do we need to provide, usually, at least for temporarily, hinihingi niya mga trapal, mga GI sheet, plywood, mga 2x2, yun lang mga para meron lang sa kagaya mga bubong na nasira, at least makuberan nila habang i-repair para pwede na sila makatira doon. But the first part is going to be really kung it's safe. We have to determine that it's safe. And
until when po kaya, Mr. President? Kasi most of the families are on the streets, or they use the camping tents outside their houses. So they are waiting for us, for our advisory, kung kailan ulit sila papasok sa bahay nila.
Isaac Solido, maybe you can guide us.
Ang pinaka-importante po, Vice Gov, is ma-inspect ng mga engineers kung structurally sound yun. Kung walang sira, mas candidate na bumalik agad. Basta masigurado na structurally safe. Kasi yung ibang may sira, baka matuluyan sa aftershock.
But the fear, Yusek, is that baka simulaan nila yung pag-inspeksyon, abutan naman sila ng aftershock.
Usually po sa labas muna
Baka
sila.
masaktan pa sila.
Usually sa labas muna. Tinitingnan muna. From the outside, that's the first phase. May mga visual inspection po ang mga engineers ng Public Works. At kung may candidate na delikado, siyempre hindi na muna pababalikin na.
Alright. Ganun talagang tendency, ayaw iwanan yung bahay as much as possible. So we must we do everything to bring them back in so who will do the inspection? Will be the local government or the DPWH? Sino mag-i-inspect ito mga residences na ito? Kayo sa Public Works o sa local ang usually na ano?
Yung for the residents, sir, local na yun, sir.